This is football. I am Kevin Clark. Week 3 is in the books. This is the recap. Guys, let's start here. Tampa Bay Buccaneers via John Ledyard. None of their starting 5 offensive linemen were playing their actual position on Sunday. Chris Godwin was out. Jalen McMillan was out. Mike Evans left the game. They dropped 4 passes. They committed 14 penalties for 124 yards, went 1 of 5 in the red zone, and won. Okay. In fact, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are the first team, this is released by the team, the first team since the 1970 merger to have a game-winning score in the final minute of each of their first 3 games of the year. Literally serial winners. This is what they do. And in a league where there were 7 games on Sunday afternoon, within a game-winning score in the final 3 minutes of the game. That is the most since 1970. A couple weeks had a similar amount. By the way, still game to go, but that is the most that's ever been in a single week of football. And I'm thinking about how this is not new ground. This isn't the Al Pacino inches speech from Any Given Sunday. But I do radio with Drew Butler, who's really great, former punter, and he said that when he played with the Steelers, that Mike Tomlin used to put on the board that there's 5 plays to decide a game. It's 5 plays to decide a game, and that's lots of coaches have said that, but the great ones understand, and the great ones live by that. That is high leverage plays. That's also, I'm not going to go down this road just yet, but that's also why you go for it on 4th down more than you should, or more than the normal conservative coach does. Like there's high leverage plays, and you got to make good decisions in them. But you also have to have talent and culture and all of the things that the Tampa Bay Bucks have, and they're emblematic of something that I'm going to keep talking about this entire episode. It's not about how great the Bucks are, but you have to win games like the Bucks to thrive in the current NFL, right? Mac Jones and the 49ers, Nick Bosa goes out, Ricky Pearsall is their only healthy human being, and they go down there and they drive and they beat the Arizona Cardinals. That's the type of league that it is. And I'm looking at this Chargers team, and I'm seeing Justin Herbert pressured on 54% of his dropbacks, the highest pressure rate he's ever faced. Completed 10 of 23 attempts under pressure, 143 yards, including a game-tying touchdown. Also had a pick. Took 5 sacks. And I think that when I was looking at that game the whole time, and all I could think of is the Chargers always lose this game. They always lose this game. Why? Coaching malpractice, typically. Maybe they have one bad player who cost them. Maybe it's a stupid, ill-timed penalty. They always lose this game. They not only did they win on Sunday against a Broncos team that I thought has a chance to go to the Super Bowl, and that has just as much talent as they do, except the quarterback position, but they've now won a few games now that, I mean, you talk about the Chiefs game in Brazil, they always lose those types of games. 3-0. I don't know how else to say this, except I thought the Jim Harbaugh team, I said it when they made the hire, I thought they were going to be in the Super Bowl within 5 years. I didn't know in year 2 they were going to uncharger themselves. Chargering, to me, is about it's about franchise rot, and you need someone to come in and say, all right, this isn't going to happen anymore. And that's toughness, that's drafting the right kind of player, and that's decision making. Again, the 5 plays determine whether you win or lose. The Chargers never get those plays. As Al Pacino said, sorry, I am doing the inches speech from Any Given Sunday. It's the guys who are willing to fight for that inch. They get it, right? Life's a game of inches. I could do the whole speech. I love that. I love that entire movie. I'm not going to do it. People say it's corny. Grow up. It's a football movie. It's a football movie. They're all corny. Ever seen The Program? Corny. Amazing movie. There is no such thing. I'm going to go a step further. I'm going to go one step further. There is no such thing as a great sports movie that isn't corny. Have you guys seen Field of Dreams? Grow up. So yeah, it's a game of inches. Guys willing to fight and die for that inch, right? The Chargers have figured this out. If Jim Harbaugh has figured it out, I was a Cowherd who said he's the best football coach of all time. Not going that far. College and pro. Pete Carroll, incredibly good. Jimmy Johnson, the GOAT, college and pro. By the way, I saw Jimmy Johnson in Miami a couple weeks ago with Notre Dame game. Huge pop. Huge pop, as they say in wrestling. So this Broncos defense makes it a rock fight. The Chargers finally win a rock fight. I loved it. I asked a question to the listenership on Sunday, and I got a couple hundred answers that I really loved. And here's the question: what do you know for absolute certain on September 21st, which is when we're recording this? What do you know about your team with absolute certainty? And I got a couple great answers. Some of them are about the scheme. Some of them are about knowing something's not going to work. Some of them knowing they are going to work. But I'll give you one I loved, which was from an Eagles fan, which is the Eagles have acquired the Chiefs' late game voodoo. That they're the team now that gets the break they need. They're the team now that someone bobbled it and all of a sudden they've got the ball. They're the team now that gets the special teams plays when it seems like it couldn't possibly happen again. What is that? Is that never getting blown out and hanging around enough to make the high probability play? Probably something to do with that. The fact that you're either dominating or you're in every game. You're never going to lose a game by 20 points. In order to win a close game, you got to be in a close game. So there's that. When you have such a dominant defense, you're always going to play close games. Even if the offense isn't good, the defense will bail you out with a turnover, a scoop and score, a special teams play. It's also emblematic, I'd say, of good coaching. I was doing a podcast midweek with Bet the Process, and we were talking about how something as simple as kickoff coverage is a sign. If you have a good kickoff coverage, it's a sign of good coaching because A, it's attention to detail. B, for me, it's talent, right? If you have good guys running down the field, it's typically not your starting cornerback. It's your fourth safety. And if he's a stud and he's killing people, that means your first safety is really good. Anyway, I'm not going to go to that rabbit hole too far. But typically, if you're getting those breaks because of that, it means you're stacked. So yes, the Eagles have stolen the Chiefs' voodoo. But I think there were some real clear themes that emerged today. And we kind of found out there's a couple of teams that just don't have it. I got this. ESPN. Spencer Rattler is now the first quarterback to lose each of his first 9 starts since DeShone Kizer in 2017. Kizer, trivia question. I'm going to let you guys answer this one. How many starts? Kizer lost all of his career starts. How many starts did he make? He was 0 for what? You have 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. 15. That was higher than you thought, wasn't it? 15 starts. You probably guessed 12, 13. You're saying no, but he was going to go 0 and 15. Surprise, he went 0 and 15. Winless Browns team. We all remember it, but then he never got another shot. He didn't get any of these crappy wins. You want to talk about a game or a team where you're just never hanging around? You don't get the voodoo wins. There you go, Cleveland Browns. However, the 2024 Cleveland Browns got a voodoo win. I'm going to talk about that in just 1 second. But I want to talk first about the Vikings and the Bengals. Clear example of a team that has it versus a team that doesn't, and what that means, the clarity we got. That's kind of why I asked this question. Vikings and Bengals both have a backup quarterback. And what I love about seeing teams with backup quarterbacks is I've always made the analogy football teams to F1. What's amazing about F1 is with very few exceptions, the 2 Ferrari drivers are driving the same car. The 2 McLaren drivers, and again, there are differences, but they are far closer to each other as far as what kind of car they're driving than the McLaren to the Red Bull. It is basically the same design, right? And you don't really get that in football. You don't get to see Carson Wentz run the Vikings offense. You don't get to see, and then the same exact offense, you get to see JJ McCarthy do it, and then the same exact you get to see Max Brosmer. You don't get that because Max Brosmer is going to be with the backup center, or in preseason then the left guard isn't even playing, so you don't even get to see that. Or Justin Jefferson's never going to play with Carson Wentz in preseason. It's that, so you never get to see it. When a backup quarterback comes in, everything is the same. You get to learn about your team. What do I learn? The Bengals are Joe Burrow. Bengals or Joe Burrow. And that part of that, I love Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but part of that, guys, is they were making sloppy, stupid mistakes, and Joe Burrow would have had to bail them out. The end of half sequence for the Bengals is one of the worst things I've ever seen from any football team. They were fumbling on every play. If you play Madden, if you play NCAA, and you know when the as Bill Simmons calls it, the broken axle game, and just everything goes wrong, and you say, well, this would never happen in a game. The developers for the rest of the time can say, watch the end of the Bengals game where they went from at one point they were driving with I think 2 minutes to go to make it a one score game. It was 34-3 at halftime. It was 17-3, became 34-3 after two fumbles. There was a scoop and score. It was a disaster. The Vikings took care of business because their F1 car runs well. Their F1 car, because Carson Wentz has the best, again, Orlovsky said it, the best place to play quarterback in the world. Because the defense, because Justin Jefferson, who didn't even have, I think he had like 75 yards, something like that, because of Jordan Mason, and because they're so well coached that all of the little things are going to cobble together and add it up. All the little things are going to come together. Again, Al Pacino, inches. And so to talk a little bit about the Eagles a bit more, the McVay didn't get those breaks because he didn't create those breaks. That was an awful loss for the Rams. Awful, 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 awful. To be up 26-7 at the halftime, the Eagles they were getting outgained 212-33, I think it was. And here's the point that listener Aaron Williams sent me this. What do you know about the Rams? What do you know about your team? He said, the McVay turns into the worst coach in the NFL the second the Rams get a 2-score lead. Here's what he means by that. It's a very funny way to put it. But what he means by that is you get conservative, you punt. He's got the best run designs in the league. You don't want it, you go for it on 4th and 2, buddy. You go for it you get the field goal, you try to get the field goal, you have a bad special teams botch earlier in the game, get a block. Sounded like Kevin Dotson had cramps, maybe. That may have contributed to it. Fine. Then you know the problem. You know the problem. Awful, awful special teams. Completely uncharacteristic of a Sean McVay team. But what was characteristic is that the play calling was great. They get out to an early lead. They should have been able to put it away, and they didn't make decisions to put it away. They didn't do. Nick Sirianni threw the dagger in the Super Bowl. Sean McVay would not have done it. Sean McVay would not have thrown the dagger in the Super Bowl, and that is damning to me. Here's a stat from Nate Atkins. Sean McVay is now 1-6 against the Eagles, and 89-52 against everybody else. Why do I think that? First of all, it could be just bad luck, but I also think the Eagles are a really talented team that hangs around and is able to go for it on 4th down, take advantage of McVay's conservative play calling. By the way, I love McVay. If I had to draft a coach, for like my franchise for now, considering age and success and how he builds programs, I'd probably pick McVay. But that doesn't mean he's flawless, and he had laid an absolute egg today. So they hang around. The Eagles hang around. They make really good decisions, and they're there to take advantage when a team gets sloppy when they have a 2-score lead. It's exactly, the listener is exactly right on what the diagnosis is. Jordan Davis runs 18.5 miles per hour running back. So if they had a block kick at the end. They didn't even have to score. They were going to win the game, but they did it because they wanted to. 18.5 mile per hour. That is the fastest speed on record for a player weighing 330 plus since Next Gen Stats started tracking it, which was 9 years ago. Unbelievable. What do we know about the Patriots? Jacob says Drake May is good. Not sure anyone else in the team is. That was brutal. That was awful. 5 turnovers. Drake May got teed off on, but he also made some really bad decisions. Steelers didn't impress me very much. Boy, I'm praying for Drake May. My only thing about it was funny because Tomlin and Vrabel have a lot of similarities. But one thing I was disappointed by is Vrabel. We're talking about the Chargers never winning games like that. Vrabel always wins games like that. He always wins the we turned the ball over, we're grinding it out. This game sucks. Nobody wants to watch it. Oop, we won. We scored a late touchdown. That's what Vrabel does. Vrabel wants to get in a rock fight. I was really disappointed with the Patriots today. Steelers or whatever. Defense created those turnovers. Cam Hayward was a dog. Um, I that game was so sloppy, it's hard to even draw conclusions. But I like that point. Might be one good player on the Patriots. It's a quarterback. It's a good one to have, but that also means you got a lot of ground to make up to make sure you don't fail him. Conley says the Browns defense will win just enough games to cost them a chance to draft the best QB or an impact player. Conversely, Max says the Packers still have no answer on offense against defenses to play man coverage and have a good pass rush. First of all, Max, it's a good point and it's a good analysis and it's good watching. Having said that, very few teams have an answer against good pass rush and good man coverage. Very, very, very few. Like you have Myles Garrett, he's in your face. That game was awful. And Matt LaFleur after the game took full responsibility for the play call that led to the interception, that led to the tie. It was a shutout for 56 minutes. Then Jordan Love throws that pass. Matt LaFleur after the game said Love should have just ran the ball in the bootleg. Don't throw it from like your own 10 or whatever. Awful decision to do that, especially when you know, and I really love Jordan Love. I picked the Packers to make the damn Super Bowl, but you know that Jordan Love can throw it up there sometimes. Jordan Love is a very aggressive quarterback, which is one of the reasons he's good, but also you can do that. You're playing the Cleveland Browns. They cannot move the ball. They cannot move the ball. It was a really bad decision from Matt LaFleur. The defense was this is the quote. The defense was doing so well, we knew we couldn't make a deadly mistake like that offensive way to get in the short field, and that's exactly what happened. Bad play call, bad throw, awful decision, and then the field goal gets blocked. Again, special teams, special teams, special teams. I love special teams. I wish there was a way for me to just like I'm not even because the problem is it's like special teams. The Packers hired Rich Bisaccia, right? So a couple years ago, the Packers hired Rich Bisaccia, and remember they had the complete meltdown in the NFC title game because of special teams. So they hire Rich Bisaccia, and I go, oh, well, they're going to win the Super Bowl now because special teams is going to get cleaned up. But then like they struggle on that sometimes too. So it's like I don't even know. I wish people knew ball on special teams. It was easier to figure that out because it really is an important thing. I should I like and even like you talking like punters and kickers, they barely like it's hard. It's the hardest thing to decipher is whether or not a team has good special teams. A lot of it's luck, I think. But like you're seeing these guys have fielding punts in them at the 2 yard line. Like, I don't even know what that is. Like guys who have allegedly great special teams coaches. It's like, oh, well, that guy made the dumbest decision I've seen in my life. Like, I don't know. That's my rant about that. Oh, real quick on this is important. I didn't get this point on the Eagles. I want to go back to it. Rob says the Eagles won last year by playing conservatively and having an all-time season rushing in our defense. And sorry, Eagles won last year by playing conservatively and having all-time seasons rushing and on defense isn't repeatable, so they have to open it up. This is an amazing point that I think every team can learn. Okay, the Eagles do whatever it takes in order to get better. And the Rams, again, they didn't make the decisions, but what the Eagles did, which was really interesting to me, is they went up tempo and they went deep. Jalen Hurts, 7 of 9 on 10 plus air yards in the second half, 2 touchdowns, 154 yards. Before that, Hurts had only thrown 7 passes of 10 or more air yards, had 2 completions. And I just think that to me is what makes the Eagles good. Is they said, you know what, Jalen Hurts is not playing well, pushing the ball down the field. Screw it. That's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. We're going to open up the playbook and we're going to let it rip. I loved it. Speaking of, Daniel Jones is also pushing the ball down the field, and 7 of 9 on 10 plus air yards, according to Next Gen Stats. 130 yards, touchdown against the Titans. The Titans are awful. I got a lot of people. So I don't know what I said. A couple hundred people respond to this whole deal, this whole exercise. By far, the 2 most common answers. Number one were the 49ers fans saying we'll never be healthy again. Possible. The number two was Brian Callahan. People saying Brian Callahan's not a good coach in so many words. Like, well, what do you know about your team? That basically Brian Callahan shouldn't be the coach. It's not looking good, boys. It's not looking good. I just it is abysmal down there. It's abysmal. Stu Doom says Joey Burrow is important. Yeah, that's true. Talked about that a little. Talked about that a little earlier. Tell you what's never going to happen again. Final four QBs in 2017. Remember that? Case Keenum, Nick Foles, Tom Brady, obviously, Blake Bortles. Never going to happen again. It's gotten too easy to play quarterback, and so the greatest quarterbacks, there's such a variance, and it is such a high ceiling when you have a Joe Burrow that the idea that Jake Browning is going to come in and have a miracle year, no longer possible. 2017, average depth of target was so much lower, checkdowns were so much higher. It was really easy. The passing boom was working. The numbers were astounding, but the passing boom, he favored Matthew Stafford and Drew Brees and Peyton Manning and Tom Brady, but yet it was still easier to manufacture an offense that was close to that. Now I think if you just look on a per play basis, it's just you have to have like one of the 8 best quarterbacks. You have to have it. Most efficient. Jalen Hurts is not going to put up 5,000 yards. It's not going to be 1984 Dan Marino, but he's really efficient when he needs to be. Passing efficiency is what matters, and it's really hard to replicate that if you don't have Joe Burrow. What the ball do says Matt Eberflus's defensive play call sheet is 1 page long and drawn in crayon. The Cowboys are bad. And how about Caleb Williams? When he goes 65 yards in the air, I'm looking for it now. 65-yard touchdown pass to Luther Burden. Traveled 62 yards in the air. This is why when people say that it doesn't take much to get Caleb Williams going, build the offense around that. Why don't they build the whole point around 62 air yard touchdowns? They're going to get there. I thought the Bears were going to be so good. And what's so funny about it is I go back and forth because I was I'm on TV and I'm like, oh, the Bears, they professionalized the offensive line. And I've said all those stats with the block pressures. And then it turns out they're still the Bears. They're still inept. And they quarterbacks, it just doesn't. I had the brief thought on Saturday. I was watching Maryland and they've got this unbelievable freshman quarterback. And I had this thought. I was like, if he's got this velocity. He's just zipping the ball in there. Only 3 short years until the Bears get to fail him. That was literally my thought. Is he's the type of guy that goes to a team like the Bears and we're going, what's wrong with this offense? What's the Bears? And so the fact that they were able to have this game, maybe the Cowboys defense is just awful. The fact they were able to show us something, and obviously we saw in the first drive against Minnesota, and then it kind of flatlined from there. This was something I'm just rooting for Bears fans to have nice things. And so I'm glad it happened. I'm glad to see it. I'll tell you who's not having nice things right now is Houston Texans. So I'm talking about the 10+ air yards. For whatever reason, Next Gen Stats put together a whole big list today. CJ Stroud, 3 of 11 throwing downfield, completed 22 of 25 when throwing short of the sticks, throwing under 10 air yards. Something is broken within him, and I'm not sure what it is. Because he was so good at driving the ball down the field last year. And we thought it was the offensive coordinator, and maybe the protection schemes have gotten a little better. The offensive line is still bad. It's still bad. But he used to be able to drive the ball down the field so well, and I don't know what's wrong there. Maybe Bobby Slowick was a bad OC. They would know that well. But something is deeply wrong with Houston. And I don't think it's all on the offensive line. They should not be losing to a Jaguars team. Again, this is what we're talking about with good franchises, right? Good franchises handle business. The Seahawks went out and beat the brakes off of Spencer Rattler and the Saints because of that stat I said earlier. The Seahawks are in a better place than a team like the Texans. I know it's not a contest, and maybe maybe the Texans would have beaten the brakes off the Saints, but you cannot lose to a Jaguars team with an empty stadium on the road. Can't do it. You have to win one of your first 3 games. They are by far the most disappointing team for me personally because I thought CJ Stroud. One thing I root for is guys who push the ball down the field because it's aesthetically pleasing. It is the most beautiful thing in the sport to watch. Is a guy saying, "Screw it, we're going down 50 yards." It drives me crazy. It's my favorite thing in the world. And when I see a guy come in who can do it immediately, I see he's only going to get better, and he's getting worse. From a football standpoint, that's heartbreaking. We'll be back with 2 great episodes Tuesday morning, I think, and then Thursday morning. 1 returning guest, 1 new guest. First guest is a coach. You're going to love him. Second guest is a media titan. He's never been on. I'm really excited to have him. This has been Football. Thank you to my producer, Miles Spatola. See you on Tuesday.